The information featured in this program is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances, needs, or objectives. Guests appearing in the program may have commercial arrangements or associations with some of the companies, organisations, or foundations mentioned. Opinions expressed by the hosts or guests are personal of nature and not to be considered as advice or an inducement to purchase products or services. Before making any investment, insurance, or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise you on whether your decision is appropriate for you. This program is for informational purposes only. What's really been interesting is when we have looked at this technology is that for me personally, I know I've had to go and look at the history of money again. I've had to kind of educate myself on things that I probably thought I would never do again. And that's with the history of money. So the history makes you think about these things differently. So we've actually covered that off in this executive summary about the history of money and the why factor in that. Mark, what's your thoughts on the history of money and how that's influenced where we are today with this adoption of blockchain and crypto?
Yes, and you get that question asked a lot. It's like, why are so many people investing in the blockchain? And again, it comes down to what's the definition of money, and everybody has their different definition of money. But the bottom line is that money is a social construct, right? It's how many individuals and governments have their trust into the system that's called money. How many governments trust the U.S. dollar, or they trust the yen. It's that public confidence and trust in the money that people are willing to pay certain amounts of fees and certain amount of cost for, like coffee when it goes up. Which, again, it has to go back to inflation. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Getting the understanding of the history and understand the money, you'll start understanding why a lot of people are trusting the Bitcoin network. They're trusting that they can put their money in other investments that are safe and sound into something like the Bitcoin network, where they can help themselves, help their money against, hedge against inflation. So I think the idea of people saying, yes, I'm willing to pay $2,500 for a non-fungible token, a picture of LeBron James. It's just that's what people want. I always give the example of, I don't think Beyonce's done it yet, but I think if Beyonce puts out an NFT album and only sells 500 of them and people buy it, they're going to be selling for like $3,000 or $7,000. I know the Kings of Leon did a NFT for their music, and now you're starting to see all this other non-fungible tokens. And a lot of people are going, what's the point? It's digital. It's a digital piece of art. But people, people put their trust in this type of, it's not a fad. I think they put their trust in this, that it's going to be something that they're going to be using in the future. And it's hard for people to put their mind around something that's abstract like that. Even money's kind of an abstract idea. But I think it's understanding the history of it, and it's the whole point of the executive summary in the paper, is to educate people of where we're at and where we see this space going.
I completely agree with you there, Mark, in terms of the fact that a lot of where blockchain is about trust. I think when I go back to when Michael and I first started getting interested in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, that was back in around 2016, 17. I remember I would talk to people about cryptocurrencies back then, and people didn't trust it, didn't understand it, but most of all, didn't trust the system. Now, you pointed out that money was an abstract concept, and I would say a lot of people probably don't understand the exact mechanics of how money works, and how government issued money works, but they trust it enough that they use it every day. Cryptocurrency is now in a phase of shifting from being untrusted to being trusted. And I think that's what we're seeing is driving a massive amount of the growth in the space at the moment. And I think the commonality here is where people don't necessarily understand exactly how money works and how the central banks interact with governments and with the tax system and with issuing of bonds and the like. People also don't fully understand the blockchain either, but they're starting to trust it. They're starting to say, well, actually, this thing's been around for a while now and it works and it hasn't been hacked. So maybe it's something we can put our faith in.
Definitely. It's a perception of value, isn't it, now that's changed, isn't it? And what we've looked at here in the evolution of money, and I'll just bring it down the screen here, is that we started off with bartering originally, right, as value exchange. Now that's happening on the blockchain, but not necessarily an exchanging of tokens between people doing services with each other, while also storing value in the way of Bitcoin. So we're seeing some of these old methods merging in the new technology, which is really interesting to note. But this is, I think it's very important for people to read this and get understanding of the evolution of money, to get a feeling of why blockchain and particularly crypto has become what it is today and where it's going. And as Dave mentioned, we are looking at, it's still the early days. We've got more to go. Slowly, people are coming on, as we tricked over, was it 1 trillion worth of Bitcoin there, a month or two ago. So that's early. Very early days to seed a new financial system. Is that probably the word you would use it, guys, is seeding a new financial system?
Yeah, I think it's part of the new financial system for sure. Probably if there's one point I could highlight from this history of money section, if there's kind of one takeout of this section that I would call out above all others. Throughout the history of creation of money, we've had kind of a number of core concepts that have been created, and they didn't get created overnight. They've been created over thousands of years. Now, these concepts are accounting, currency, and banking. Interestingly, accounting was the first one to come along, which is, you probably wouldn't have thought that. Then after accounting came currency, and then after currency came banking. Now, what cryptocurrency and blockchain do, and what government issued coins will also do, is they unify the three concepts of currency, banking, and accounting. This means that this creates a massive amount of efficiency over what exists today, where you have to, each concept is administered separately, and then you need massive number of processes in order to kind of reconcile the three concepts. The beauty of what's built into blockchain technology is every time you do a transaction, all three of those concepts are unified into one. So that is essentially, in a secure way, that is auditable, right? And that is the kind of key thing that has been delivered by blockchain technology and the key innovation in money. And hence why this, if you probably can't see the graphic too well on the screen, but the key thing is this thing was just created in 2009. The concept had been around for a lot longer, but the first prototype of it was released in 2009. Where will we be in 1,000 years? Where will we be in 500 years? What will the future bring? Because each of these previous concepts of money delivered massive changes in society. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this innovation brings.
Yeah, without doubt, you've hit the nail on the head there, I think, and it's going to certainly evolve, and it's going to be interesting in the next couple of decades how this does evolve with that at the moment.
Michael, let me add something too, which I think is fascinating. That talking about Bitcoin, and that you said it reached a market cap of like 1 trillion. So Bitcoin, it took 12 years for them to reach a market cap of $1 trillion. It took Microsoft 40 years to reach a market cap of $1 trillion. So it shows you just with this network how quickly it's growing. And like Dave said, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years with this. It's the next 1,000 years. But the great thing, and I love your points, David, about having accounting and everything built into the system. There's something called crypto economics, and Bitcoin and blockchain is the first use case of crypto economics. And again, I go back to Satoshi Nakamoto and the white paper. It's fascinating that you had all these disciplines. You had accounting, you had economics, you had cryptography, you had networking, all separate, right? And this paper brought all those together into this new science called crypto economics, where you built the rules of the system. They're built into the system. You have incentives and disincentives. You have consensus of the network. So all these mechanisms put into one gave us the first use case of it, which was Bitcoin, and it's just fascinating. The Bitcoin network is just fascinating. I think there's a lot of other crypto network or cryptocurrency networks that are trying to duplicate what Bitcoin has, and I don't think they've gotten close yet to it. But it's just fascinating, and I always say that it's the gold standard. It's the grandfather of all these other altcoins, which is, I think it's just great. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years, next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, our grandfather after 11 to 12 years. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.